What's up, and welcome to another episode of Mind of a Black Author. And today I wanted to talk about some of my lesser known works. So, I've done 28 books, okay? 28. 29 is actually done. I'm just sitting on it for whatever reason, but book 29, if you are a newsletter follower, you've already seen the cover and the concept and everything, even heard a little bit about the book, but it's on its way. And then book number 30, I'm actually hoping to have done by July, I think is the event that I'm going to in Richardson. And the reason I want to do that is because I think the actual theme of that book would actually do well. But I've done 28 books, and it's really hard to understand the concept of me doing 28 books. When I first started writing, I never thought I'd get this deep into it, but here we go. So I wanted to talk about some of my lesser known works, and these are the works that haven't really broke out or really haven't had anybody kind of talking about them, and they're for different reasons, and I'm gonna get into a little bit of it to talk about these few books. But when you're an author and you do a lot of writing, there's going to be a lot of hit or miss type deals, and all of my books I consider are my babies. And so these are my babies that are the ugly ducklings, so to speak, the ones that just don't get no attention. And now daddy is giving these books some attention. So let's start off with the first one. One Man's Redemption. Okay. So the reason this book was made, let me just kind of give you a background of it. I've done movie scripts, and I used to do movie scripts before I started doing novels. And this was one that was converted into a novel. And I was in between projects and just really wanted to do something nice, sweet, and short. And I came up with the idea of One Man's Redemption. And it's a story of basically a hitman. In the book, his name is Antoine. In the script, it was something else. But basically, the concept is the same. This hitman, he's supposed to do a job for a new boss. He doesn't do it because it had involved shooting somebody in front of a kid, and he didn't want to do it. And so now he's on the run from the same criminal organization that he used to do hits for. And while he's trying to make plans to get out of town, he meets this mysterious woman named Shannon. And that's the girl right there, in case you can't see. Hold on, let me get past the little ring thing. And Shannon claims that she works for God and is actually looking to hire him to do 4 jobs. Okay, so let's bring that all into concept here. She works for God and she's hiring a hitman to do 4 jobs. Now, the only caveat is he must agree to do all of the jobs. Like, she doesn't tell him what the jobs are beforehand, just saying, hey, I'm gonna hire you for 4 jobs. You need to accept all of them, or you don't get paid. And she offers him a substantial amount of money. So he thinks it's a bunch of BS, but when she starts to show the money, he decides he needs to do it because he knows he's going to be on a run from this criminal organization. He's going to need every dime that he can get. And so the 4 jobs are really strange jobs, and he has reservation on each of them. And you can really tell that by this story. So the reason why this one I don't think really moved too well is because, one, it's a short book. Matter of fact, it's not really a novel, it's a novella. And people who complain about books like this, novellas, I've seen people charge like $15 for books this small, which is ridiculous in my opinion. But I only charge, if you see me at a trade show or a signing event or whatever, this book's only $6. I normally charge $6 for this book. Online, I believe it's like $1 or $2. So if you want to get it on Kindle, you can get it real cheap. And I just think the reason why this one didn't move as well is because it's not really that thick of a book. It's a novella. It's not a full novel. But the story is just as good. Matter of fact, I always tell people that I had screenplays that were actually optioned. This is one of them. Okay? This is one of them. I was actually offered an option on this story. And for those who don't know what an option is, basically you have a individual or an entity who decides, hey, I want to basically be the one to make this this novel into a movie, and I want to sign an option deal with you. Now, what that means is if these people ever decide, hey, remember this story? We want to make this story. If they do, then I'll get paid. If they don't, it just sits on somebody's desk. Hollywood options probably thousands, maybe even millions of screenplays every year. And they just sit on people's desks until one day somebody says, you know what? Why didn't we never make this? And then they'll make it. So it's been a long time since this was optioned. But yes, this was optioned. And the funny thing about it is, if it's good enough to be optioned into a movie, it's good enough to be a story. So this one, like I said, it's a great story. It's a short story, but it's a great one. And I tell you, it's very cheap. Like I would not sell a book this size for $15, 12 or $15. This book literally I would sell for about $6 at the shows. And you can get it online for probably about $1 or $2. And again, that's one man's redemption. And I'm going to put all the links to all these books in here. So if you do want to check any of them out, you can. Okay. So moving on from that one, we're going to talk about Life After Death, The Rules of the Widowed. So this book had the distinction of being my final book that I had published with my publisher. And it's a comedy. All right. So the cover's kind of conflicting, but it does run with the storyline. So Preston, he's a professional businessman. He loses his wife in a tragic car accident. All right. So, he's been married for about, I want to say maybe about 15, 20 years, somewhere in there. So he's been married for a while. To lose his wife in a car accident was a tragic thing. However, it's been 6 months since her death. And now he's basically the hottest thing going to the women who knew him because, according to his friends, he took the leap of faith of being married. And so women are into that. And so now he's pulling a lot of women he most notably wouldn't have pulled in the before that. And there's this one hot, sexy woman that works in his office named Nina, and he's looking to hook up with her. But before he actually hooks up with her, his friends take him on a night out of the town trying to get him laid because they want his best effort when courting her. So as you can tell, this is a comedy. Okay, it's not a serious book. I mean, yes, his wife dies, and there's a couple of emotional moments in here with him kind of dealing with that. But it's a comedy. It literally is what it is. It's a funny comedy. And a lot of people, again, they don't really, look at this book. So this one has a lot more into it. So this is an actual traditional novel. And what makes this book so funny is there's a lot of things that I thought about when I was writing this book. First of all, I'm married. So those who don't know that, you know now. And I always thought about what would happen if I had to get back into the dating game. And this is the stuff that I think would happen because dating is totally crazy, this time, day and age. So I always thought about that and I made a book out of it. And this is the type of stuff that I would probably run into just like this character. So the concept of him trying to get laid is the fact that, he's only had sex with his wife for the past 15, 20 years. So he may be a little out of how to, I won't say pleasure a woman, but do something different. Like one of the examples one of the characters give is, you've eaten, like if you're on a desert island or what have you, and you're eating one thing, constantly every day, you're eating, let's say a saltine cracker. I can't remember the exact example you used, but I'll just use this for an example. A saltine cracker. You're eating a saltine cracker for like 20 years. And then somebody puts peanut butter and you're going to think, oh my God, this is the greatest thing ever because you're not used to it. So you think of it as a sexual term. You were able to pleasure your wife. You're able to do what you need to do with her. However, you get something brand new and then swish. And so they wanted him to avoid that because Nina was such a bad chick. They want to make sure that she gets his best effort because he may not get a chance with her again. And they're saying that, she talks to people and say that, yeah, he's a preemie, then he won't get anybody else. So they're really trying to look out for him in this comedic thing. So trying to get him laid. The reason I think that this book wasn't that successful is it's becoming on the hinges of After Hours. So After Hours is my most popular comedy book and people laugh at it. And everybody who's read it has said it's the funniest book that they've ever read. And so coming off of that, this one may not be as good as that one. Now, that particular one is more of a hood comedy. So there's a lot of hood things that happen, situations and stuff like that. Whereas this is more of a professional comedy. So, and then of course, after this book, I wrote The Professionals too. So that one also is more popular than this one. But I think a lot of people are slipping on this one. This book is just as funny as After Hours, in my opinion. So if you liked After Hours, you're going to love this book. If you like The Professionals, you're going to love this book. Okay. This is comedy. It's funny. Now, it's not hood comedy, but it is comedy, say, just it's good to me, So this is one of my babies. I enjoy it. I might actually revisit this one because I haven't read it in a while because I've been so busy doing other stuff. But yeah, this was my last published book with Major Key Publishing before I decided to go solo with them. But yeah, it's still a good book. It's still a fun book. It's an entertaining book. So if you want to laugh, this is a good book to check out. All right, so the final book I'm going to talk about, Promiscuous Love, The Murder of Natalie Little. Okay, so with this book, it's a fun book. It's a murder mystery book, but the character named Natalie Little, she's actually the main character of the book. So how, if we're talking about the murder of Natalie Little, is she the main character? Well, for starters, a lot of the book is told in flashback. So she's murdered. They're trying to figure out who murdered her. And so they're basically arresting several people. The main suspect is a guy named Keith who was with her last, and they had a argument that everybody in the apartment complex saw. So he is the main suspect right now, but there are other suspects that come about in this book. And each of them tell a story about Natalie. So you get to see the flashback and see how she became who she was. Her promiscuous nature says just that she uses sex really to control situations. So all guys and women that she's been with, sex was a main part of it. Like she knew how to use that to manipulate her way to things. And clearly something went wrong and she ended up getting killed for it. This was I want to say this is probably my second or third published book. And a lot of people don't realize that a murder mystery, you can talk to the actual character. And I really liked showing her life beyond that. So you can make your decision on who killed her or who you think killed her, or make any other declaration on her character as the way that she does things. And this is the closest thing that you'll get. A lot of people like, oh, I like erotic novels. Well, this is really the closest thing you'll get from me because I am not a erotic writer. There's a lot of sex in here, obviously with the title being Promiscuous Love. And the reason why there's more sex in here probably than a lot of my other books is because I only use sex as a need to basis. Like there has to be a reasoning for it, if that makes sense. I don't like to write sex scenes just to kind of stretch out a chapter or something, because you'll see some of my chapters, they'll end, or a scene will end where the two characters start having sex and then it kind of forwards to the next day or whenever the act is over, because the description of sex or the writing of sex isn't really necessary for the story. Whereas this one, it is. So every sexual encounter that she has is really just to build her character, to show how she manipulates people by having sex. And like I said, it's a murder mystery. So you can read through it and see if you can figure out who did it. I know who did it. Do you? But yeah, there's several suspects in here, and I try to make it as I leave certain clues around, but not too many as to it's so obvious. But tell me what you think if you do read this book. Did you know who the killer actually was? It may shock you, but there are main suspects in here that, I try to make it seem like they may have something to do with it, but then I kind of pull it back. So, stuff like that. So either way, but I don't know if the reason this one never really took off. I don't know if it's because I don't know. The other books, I kind of understand why those didn't take off. This was just my second published one. So I was a little disappointed at the way that this one kind of took a back seat to a couple of things. But I did come out with NOLA Street Tales, was my first published novel. And maybe this one didn't take off because I know one of the things that the publisher would tell me is you should stay in one genre because your people will know what to expect. And maybe that was the case. Nola Street Tales did pretty well. And maybe they were expecting something of that nature when they saw this. And Nola Street Tales is more of an urban fiction crime book, whereas this one is a murder mystery. So I really wanted to show I can do different genres. And with 28 books under my wings, I have done different genres. So maybe that's why this one didn't take off at the time, but it is still available. I mean, this is a good book. It is a great storyline. It's a murder mystery. And if you can figure out who killed her, who killed Natalie, then hats off to you. But those are the 3 books I just wanted to kind of talk about. Again, I have book 29 and 30 will hopefully come out sometime this year. So I'm staying busy, y'all. I'm doing a lot of work. These are the books, though, that I think if you are interested in any of my work, I know Between Wives is like the big seller right now. If you're interested in Between Wives, Promiscuous Love will definitely be one of those books that you'll like. If you're into After Hours, you're definitely going to like the Rules of the Widowed book. And the One Man's Redemption, it's a book, trust me, if it's good enough to be optioned as a screenplay for Hollywood, it's good enough for you to read. It's a short read, it's a cheap read. Any of these 3 books, you should check it out. And I'm going to leave the descriptions and the links below here for these books. But that's all I have right now. I'm still trying to do a lot of different things. I'm trying to do these one-off advertising things. And you can always check me out at www.enigmakid.com. That's www.enigma, K-I-D-D for the listeners. And I hope to see you check out some of these books because they are very good and you will enjoy them. They're my babies. It's your boy Nigma signing off. Deuces.